with the knowledge that we have in 2024, there's no excuse to live a life that's based around fantasy. We have to look at where we are situated in life now, physically, mentally, and spiritually. What our influence is towards the family members around us, and what our life portrays to the people that are looking to us to be guided and led in a way in which is going to bring them some kind of sustainable success, health, spiritual, intellectual, career-wise success for their lives. The hippie lifestyle didn't work. The what about me lifestyle hasn't worked, the victim predator. The only thing that works is to find out who you truly are. All fantasies aside about yourself, all avatars of yourself pushed to the side, all romances about yourself move to the side, so that you can begin to move out of the mentality, infantile mentality that is holding you back, and move into a mature mentality that will enable you to grow, that will enable you to come back to yourself for a start, reculturalize and reform, which is you're going to hear a lot of it, reform, because that's the only way people are going to improve. They've got to reform themselves back to the morals and values that work. Otherwise, they're going to lose their health, including their mental health, physical health, spiritual health, academia health, career health, financial health. Because living in a fantasy about yourself does not work. It's not sustainable. And you'll see a lot of these old people now that tried to live that way are worn out. They're still trying to make fools happy. They're still trying to give themselves their identity by, wearing their purple dress or their, hippie clothes. And they're just adults in infants' bodies. They're just infantile. They're just little children. They haven't developed. They've got no intention of developing. They're unable to grow. They didn't make the right decisions for themselves. They didn't make the right choices for themselves. They just didn't grow. They didn't want to grow. They didn't choose to grow. They got stuck in a perception of themselves that they gave themselves that was completely and utterly wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, this works for religious people as well. I spent decades watching, being a part of, and trying to help religious people come back to their senses and out of the lies and the cocoon that their religious beliefs led them into. They lost touch with reality. They idolized God. He does not want to be idolized. They made an idol out of him. The Bible talks explicitly about not making idols, not putting other things before him. It's like having a picture of your mother and worshipping the picture and not knowing the mother, or knowing the mother but paying more attention to the picture. This is what we do inside ourselves. We paint a picture of ourselves, we put it on the shelf of our mind, and we try and sustain it. It's called an avatar mentality. And it's just not sustainable. It doesn't produce maintainable mindsets that are capable of being sustained. We repress who we really are. We repress what's truly happening inside us, and we live a fantasy. Now, for some of you, that fantasy has led you into habits and addictions and victim mindsets, and in some other ways, such a grandiose perception of yourself that you've become godlike within your own mind. You've got this godlike, supernatural perception of yourself that nothing can go wrong for you, to such a point that you're no different to the devil, because your output, your energy output and vibration brings darkness, complete and utter darkness, to yourself and to people. Darkness leads to ill health, wrong thinking, bad attitudes, violence, stealing, death. A lot of these people died from overdoses and that back in the 70s and that, and they still are today. I know, because my daughter's a detective and she tells me some of the stuff she has to deal with and go through, and she's only one of thousands that are working out there in our communities trying to keep people in order, cleaning up the mess behind the high level and low levels of societies that are just harming and maiming themselves, because the avatar they've created for themselves, of themselves, is completely and utterly delusional. And in most cases, it's not their fault, it's how they've been raised. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, you're fantastic. Oh, you can't do anything wrong. Oh, that's great. And it's all a crock of crap. The person was totally on the wrong track. They were just getting their ego stroked. And the Bible warns, flattery can lead to deception, which leads to destruction. People love flattery. People love to be grandized. People love to be put on pedestals and things, but that doesn't promise them a good ending. Might feel good at the time, but many a bird's fallen off its perch and looked back up at it and gone, oh, that was too high for me. And they never get back on it again. They just stay on the ground. Their wings are being clipped. It never had to be that way. Never stroke somebody's ego. It'll come back to bite them, and it'll come back to bite you. It's one of the most unhealthiest things you can do to somebody. Yeah, praise and healthy acknowledgement, but if you're just stroking somebody's ego to make them feel comfortable and you feel comfortable, you're in for a shock. People have an avatar of themselves, a fantasy about themselves, deep in the back of their mind. They don't even know it's there, and it's leading them astray. A lot of these people justify themselves through their work. They go to work and hide. IT, to tradesmen, to the welfare people, to the people that help the handicapped. A lot of these people are hiding under the avatar of who they think the world sees them as a career person. But the truth's not in the career, the truth's in the person and what they do when they're alone, what they do to themselves when they're alone. The only way that works is the moral highway. The only way that works is the life of integrity, and it all comes down to one simple, very simple statement that seems too hard for most people to work out, for the masses to work out. And that's to love your neighbour as yourself. That means you have to, in every aspect and respect, look after yourself. And for many of you, that could be removing yourself from unhealthy people, including children or parents. They're just not healthy for you. They're just not doing you good. Many of you find your identity in your children or your parents, and you wasted years off your life, and you'll continue to do the same. because you have made a world for yourself. You've formed a fantasy between each other that's just not real. And you're deluding yourselves. These families delude the people in them. Completely delude them. And then you'll get a black sheep that breaks away and everybody goes into a crisis, a narcissistic collapse, because they didn't think they'd be left alone. All of it was so that they wouldn't be left alone, and guess what? They end up broken and alone. They have a narcissistic collapse because that's not what they wanted. But the lifestyle and the avatar that they painted was not going to work for themselves or the people around them. It was all dark. It was all unreal. It wasn't real. And when people realise they're in a situation that's not real, guess what? They leave. They panic and leave. They want what's real. There isn't time to be living some kind of stupid, immature, infantile, unrealistic fantasy. And all these things are running on the sinful nature, because the sinful nature will give the person the kick they need in their emotions, the high, to make them want to continue. But it also gives them the manic. It'll bring them down to their knees. And for some strange reason, they have so little self-awareness, they can't even recognise what they're doing to themselves. But when the light comes on and the mask comes off and all the superficiality comes off, that's when maturity starts. That's when we start to grow.